Josh Hennick filling in for Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN. We continue the football conversation. The football never sleeps, and a man who knows that all too well is NFL insider Adam Caplan, Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. And he's back for another edition of Football at 4 here on 97.3 ESPN. Adam, welcome back. How you doing today?
Josh, I'm well. Hope you're doing well. And yeah, it's been an interesting day. Your word leaked out around mid last week that Brandon Graham would be announcing his retirement this week. We didn't know what day it was, and he picked today to do it. So it's an amazing career, Josh. I got to be honest with you. The first 2 years, it just looked like so bad for Brandon.
Right.
He got off to a bad start. Fans are crushing him because they took Earl Thomas right after BG. The Seahawks took Thomas at 14. Jason Pierre-Paul at 15, and both had really good careers, but he outlasted those other guys, and just an all-time great Eagle. He won't make the Hall of Fame. He's in that almost Hall of Fame, one notch below, but so integral to their success, to the 2 Super Bowls. And really, it shows the perseverance and the character of the player and the person. Just a great all-time story, Josh. 15 years, man. This is not baseball or other sports where it's not as physical, where you could play a lot longer. Usually by the time a guy's 31, 32, they're just about done. And the fact that not only was he not done, he played in the Super Bowl way earlier than expected, coming back from torn triceps, and would tear it again in the Super Bowl, but played so well. And quite frankly, Josh, had he wanted to play, he still could play. There's no question. He retires, and smartly, after he won another Super Bowl, but there's no question he still could have played if he wanted to.
I mean, he is the Eagles' all-time leader in tackles for loss. He is third all-time in sacks, second all-time in quarterback hits. I mean, for a man who at one point, Adam, was considered a bust, almost 70% of his sacks came from 2016 to 2024, and even BG mentioned, Adam, and you could argue that it wasn't just him. The introduction of Jim Schwartz changed the trajectory of Eagles defenses from 2016 onward.
It did, because remember, the wide 9 came in, and what's funny is Jim Washburn is the father of it. He's the one who came up with it. And Jim Schwartz worked for Washburn. And then BG revised his career. Really, I shouldn't say revised. It actually just took off in 2016.
Right.
Because it wasn't like he had done well before that, really. He had flashes. In his first 5 years, he had one really nice year, but then it really took off. But think about it, though, Josh. He did not have a double-digit sack year until his last quarter of his career. It's just really remarkable, and he became a second-team All-Pro. And the other part about it is his leadership that he showed. You never would have seen this in the first couple of years. And Jeff Mosher and I are dropping a show on the Inside the Birds platform, which will drop in an hour, where we tell some great stories, man. Some that we never talked about before. And I could just tell you, I didn't see it. Again, the first couple of years, there's just no reason to think, whether you were in the locker room or not, or you're on the football team, you just didn't see a guy that had it together. And then at some point, we all as human beings have to make a decision, were you going to get there or not? And he sure did, and he became a beloved Eagle. And the other funny part about it is the first 3 or 4 years, he had the battles on Twitter with folks, and he couldn't take it any longer, so he blocked a lot of us. Not only did he block a lot of fans, he blocked media members that he didn't really know. I didn't really know him, and he blocked me, and I just never could figure out why. It's kind of funny how that works out.
Yeah, and he admitted at the press conference that he finally forgave people and just said, unblock everybody. So
yeah, isn't that funny? That's crazy. Yeah.
He didn't even know he blocked anyone. He just said, I unblocked all of y'all.
Well, I wonder if he told, I don't know if he had marketing people working for him. I don't know if what he said, but who has time to block everyone, right? So something was weird there.
Adam, I barely have time to be on social media, let alone block anybody.
I know. Look, it's an unbelievable story. The next part about this is, who takes over as leaders there. I know they were top 3 in having a youngest defense in the National Football League. I don't see any way that anyone's younger than them right now. I mean, that's a good thing, by the way, but you just wonder. I know leadership it's sort of nebulous. You can't measure it in wins.
Right.
But what happens is when things are not going well, guys have to they got to get in guys' ear and got to get in guys' head and hey, you get yourself together and so forth, and someone's got to make a play. But this is a little bit more extreme when they knew they had to win and Brandon made that play to help secure the Super Bowl win with a strip sack against Brady in 17. It's stuff like that, rise to the moment, or when you're really, really young, not everyone's going to be mature. It's hard to find that. And it's going to be fascinating to see who becomes the next leaders of this defense.
Well, speaking of who is coming back for the Philadelphia Eagles, let's get into that. Who we have so far here on Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. We're joined by NFL insider Adam Caplan at Caplan NFL on the TutorX platform. Quarterback position, Kenny Pickett out, Dorian Thompson-Robinson in. We know the Eagles already have Tanner McKee, so what is the DTR expectation for the Eagles?
Yeah, so look, Tanner McKee is going to be the number 2 quarterback. That was the reason why they traded Pickett. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a guy that the Eagles really liked 3 years ago for the draft. He's got some skill, no question. It's not a secret. Anyone who's watched him play, he's known for his running, not his throwing. But he's got the ability to throw the football. He was rushed by the Browns, and that's not Thompson-Robinson's fault. That was the Browns' fault. They went through a number of quarterbacks last season, and their mistake of not bringing back Joe Flacco, I mean, that kind of reared its ugly head. And Jameis Winston, it just didn't work for him. We know about Deshaun Watson and his situation, getting hurt. And DTR had to play, and he just wasn't ready, and he struggled. So he enters year 3 on a new team. The cool thing is Eagles really wanted him, and they're going to try to redevelop him. And they're just kind of take what they know, what he did at UCLA for Chip Kelly, and just see what he can do here. And now with a new quarterback coach here, Scott Leffler, who is a guy that I'm told by some coaches who've worked with him or know him that he's a really good quarterback coach. Well, he's going to have to prove it here. You mentioned Tanner McKee's going to work with him, and obviously Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I love the thing with Scott Leffler, the story of how he could have been the Browns quarterback coach years ago, but that job went to Kevin O'Connell, and now he's in Philadelphia with another former Browns quarterback. So it's kind of like this strange circle of life.
10 years later. It's crazy. It was 2015. Yep, it's a true story.
Adam at running back, A.J. Dillon, the former Boston College back. He might be the only guy right now in the league with bigger quads than Saquon Barkley, but he is coming off of an injury. So what are some realistic expectations?
Yeah, now look, they signed him to be the number 2, but he's got to show that he's ready. And I know he passed their physical, but until you get there, you really don't know, because he didn't play in the regular season. He played one in preseason game, then had the neck stingers, which he first suffered an injury late in 2023. He's been able to play through 2 other injuries in his career. He takes on a lot of contact, but did not miss any games his first 2 years. So let's see what happens here. But he's a guy who there was a reason why he was a second-round pick. Really talented guy, no question about it. It's funny because they wanted a 1-2 punch with him and Aaron Jones, and it sort of worked a little bit, I would say. First 2 years, at times it looked like he could be a feature back if they needed him to, but they don't need him to do that here. They need 3 things out of him. One, if Saquon Barkley gets hurt, fill in, be the bell cow, be the main ball carrier. This is still going to be a running team. Also, give Saquon a break, a couple series a game if you can. Let him carry the football. You know they're going to. The Eagles were the only NFL team in the regular season to run it more than they throw it, so you know what they're going to do. And then also, and this is really important, to be the closer. If they're up by 3 touchdowns with 10 minutes left, pull Barkley and put Dillon in to salt the game away. That's what he can do. And I don't know what his weight is. His playing weight, we're told, is 245 to 247. You would think it would behoove him to be in the mid-230s maybe, so we'll see what happens. And then Avery Williams, if he makes a team, will be a punt and kickoff returner and a gunner. He won't play it. He won't carry the ball most likely because he just doesn't. He's not really a running back anymore. He started his career with the Falcons as a corner, then moved to running back, then tore his ACL 2 years ago. And last season, he wasn't really a running back. He was a coverage player and a kickoff and punt returner. So that's what he figures to do here.
Speaking of kicks and punt returns, Avery Williams, it looks like he's going to be the replacement for Britton Covey. What does he bring?
Yeah. One thing, I mentioned Williams a second ago, I would say this about Williams. he's explosive. Like he's a pretty good returner. He's just small, and I don't know that he's been the same since his ACL injury. And then at tight end, look, Harrison Bryant's a guy we outlined before free agency started. That's a guy who could go somewhere to be a number 2. If they trade Dallas Goedert, we know they were trying to. If they're able to trade Dallas Goedert, they still would need a starting tight end. Harrison Bryant really doesn't figure to be a starting tight end unless they can't draft one that they like or find someone who'll be a starter. And then you've got Caplan, granted, who's a move tight end, who's a 6'1.5" athletic tight end, more of an H-back. The coach who scouted him for the draft told me. So they're going to have enough tight ends. They just need a starter for the future. And then you've got the Kenyon Green situation who will compete for the right guard job. No question with Tyler Steen. And let's see what happens. I know he struggled mightily with the Texas, but Greg Cosell told us flat out was a really good college prospect, and I know he's not played well as a professional. But guess who's going to coach him? It's going to be Jeff Stoutland, so we'll see what happens.
Also, he was a rookie at 20 years old. I'm sure that maybe being 4 years older will probably help him as well.
Sure. Good point. Yep.
Adam, on the defensive side, Azeez Ojulari, the former Georgia player, another Georgia guy coming to Philadelphia, comes in on that 1-year deal. Interesting pickup for the Eagles.
The Eagles have been the kings of 1-year deals. They've done at least 8 of them. Azeez Ojulari is another one, and he's a guy when healthy, and that's been the problem. He was on injured reserve the past 3 seasons. He spent part of those seasons on IR. He's an explosive pass rusher. He's not tall. He's just over 6'2", but has left tackle arms. He's got 34 3/8 arms. Josh, that is ideal arm length for a left tackle. So I'm not ruling him out to start. It's kind of he's getting backup money, but you got to see. We have to see what they do the rest of free agency and the draft before we kind of know for sure. But he'll definitely be in the mix for a role. Really explosive. He's just got to stay healthy. Josh Uche, a former second rounder for the Patriots, had 1 monster year. That was 3 years ago. Last 2 not very good. Greg Cosell makes a great point in our show that we did today. We'll drop. I think we drop this one later this week. We'll give you one little note. Greg talks about how tough it is to play in the Steve Spagnuolo defense when you're traded there like he was at the trade deadline. Patrick Johnson's back. He'll play on special teams almost exclusively, a former 7th-round pick. And Adoree Jackson, Josh, he'll probably compete for a starting job as of now against Keely Ringo, but that's depending on what they do in the draft. If they don't draft a corner in the first 2 rounds, then you could make the case it's Jackson versus Ringo opposite Quinyon Mitchell corner. And Jackson could run, by the way, and he does turn 30 this fall. And he's a guy we've outlined over the years that Howie Roseman's really liked him. Now he's got his guy in the twilight of his career.
Yeah, I mean, that 2017 draft where I let you go, Adam, I mean, with Marshawn Lattimore, and it was Marlon Humphrey and Adoree Jackson.
Wow.
It was all those guys in that draft. I remember that because he was like the raw talent of all those guys. Whereas the other guys were more refined. He was like the more freakish athlete from USC. And I remember you and Jeff talked about it years ago about how he was a guy that Philadelphia liked, but they didn't want to pay the premium when he hit the free agency out of Tennessee.
Yeah, and the reason, again, I don't remember exactly, Josh, every reason. But the bottom line is, when you look at that situation, I know one of them was that because of his injury history, they were wary of paying big money. But they got him now. He's in the mix. It's fascinating to see all these 1-year deals. Very little guaranteed money.
Yeah. Each
deal is for under $2 million apiece. This is it's bargain shopping. But let's see what happens. I know fans are up in the air over this one. They're not happy with it because the team just won the Super Bowl. But again, we'll say it again. The season does not start till September. We always have to remind ourselves of that because of the deals Howie's made. Look, he made the deal for C.J. Gardner-Johnson the first time right on August 30th. The Ronald Darby trade some years ago for the Super Bowl team. He made the one with Buffalo. So let's just see what happens before people go off the rails here and thinking like this is the finished product. It's absolutely not the finished product.
At Caplan NFL for more NFL and Eagles coverage, InsideTheBirds.com, Inside the Birds podcast. Download, like, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and also Inside the Birds on YouTube. Adam, we'll talk soon.
Thank you.